They called him the villain, but Geto was something worse, a believer who saw too much. He didn't crave chaos. He craved order that made sense, and when that system failed him, he didn't burn the world. He restructured it. Foucault warned us, when surveillance becomes salvation, rebellion becomes the only form of freedom. In the beginning, Geto believed, not just in exorcism, in justice, in rules, in missions, in the idea that cursed spirits were evil, and sorcerers were society's hidden protectors. He believed in his own role. The world told him he was good, and he played the part. But faith in a broken system is a ticking bomb, and it started with the mission that changed everything. Riko Amanai, a girl they were ordered to protect. Not for who she was, but for what she represented. A vessel, a sacrifice. Geto began to see the cracks, how the elders saw people as pieces, how the Jujutsu system sacrificed the innocent while preserving the powerful. How exorcising spirits meant nothing if those who created them, the oppressed, the forgotten, were still suffering. The missions didn't protect people. They preserved hierarchy. They protected the order that kept sorcerers obedient. And in that moment, Geto snapped, not emotionally, philosophically. He realized something terrifying. They weren't cleansing evil. They were sterilizing rebellion. He looked around and saw nothing but masks, colleagues who smiled, who obeyed, who asked no questions. Even Gojo, the strongest, played along, because strength allows you to ignore the rot. But Geto couldn't ignore it anymore. He wasn't corrupted, he was converted from idealist to strategist, from believer to revolutionary, not because he hated humanity, but because he saw what it was being shaped into. Foucault warned that modern power doesn't punish, it disciplines, it observes, classifies, labels you as sick, deviant, cursed, and once labeled, you become expendable. Geto saw this firsthand. Villagers turning on non-sorcerers, humans labeled monkeys, his own disgust at power masquerading as purity. He asked, why protect a world that creates so much suffering and calls it peace? So he turned his back on the school, on Gojo, on the idea that obedience is virtue. But Geto didn't choose destruction. He chose design, a new order, one where power wouldn't hide behind bureaucracy, where cursed energy wasn't shackled by tradition, but weaponized against hypocrisy. To many, that's villainy. To Foucault, it's inevitable. Geto's shift wasn't just rebellion, it was revelation, a slow, precise unraveling of everything he once held sacred. The elders? Frauds, the missions, rituals of control, the curses? Not just monsters, they were symptoms of deeper suffering, and the most haunting realization. The system needed cursed spirits to survive. Without fear, there would be no need for exorcists. Without chaos, there would be no need for control. The Jujutsu world didn't seek peace. It commodified it. Foucault described power as a web, not a weapon, a network of norms, beliefs, behaviors constantly enforced not just by rulers, but by the ruled. Geto saw this. The way sorcerers policed each other, the silence that followed, injustice, the applause for cruelty dressed as duty. His break wasn't a tantrum. It was an awakening. That's why his new ideology wasn't random violence, it was engineered rebellion. He didn't attack blindly. He chose targets with precision, corrupt sorcerers, weak points in the system, false prophets of purity. He formed alliances, not with villains, but with exiles. Beings the system discarded, curses born from pain. He didn't see monsters. He saw reflections. Because Geto didn't want destruction. He wanted cleansing of hypocrisy. He saw the same thing Foucault saw in prisons, schools, and hospitals. Control masquerading as kindness, discipline, presented as morality, and rebellion framed as sickness. Geto became the sickness the system feared, the one that could think. He didn't scream, he explained, and his words pierced more deeply than any curse. He told Gojo, "You're strong, but you've become their weapon." And in that moment, he wasn't just fighting Gojo, he was indicting him. The strongest sorcerer, the one who could change the system, but didn't. because strength in a broken system often means comfort, not change. Geto chose discomfort. He chose exile, because truth once seen cannot be unseen. And in this fall, he didn't collapse. He crystallized into something the world couldn't name, not villain, not hero, but philosopher, a cursed thinker, a rebel priest. Foucault wrote that power is most dangerous when it hides behind rules. Geto became the heretic who exposed that truth, and for that, the system had only one response: erasure. But ideas don't die. They infect. And Geto's question still lingers. What if the monsters aren't the ones we fight, but the ones we obey? They called him evil because he stopped believing in their rules. But Geto didn't fall. He refused to serve a lie. And in that refusal, he became more than a villain. He became a mirror for Gojo, for us, for anyone who's ever asked, is it really justice if it demands silence? Is it still a system if it feeds on fear? Geto answered not with power, but with rejection. And sometimes that's the most dangerous weapon of all.